At a heartwarming dinner for 12, an amazing Japanese millionaire's hidden story was revealed by fate. The autumn wind howled as leaves danced like lost souls on the street outside Carol's diner. In the heart of Kansas, where dreams flickered like the neon "open" sign hung in the window, people came together week after week for the community dinners she hosted. It was a refuge for single mothers, weary farmers, and young dreamers. Tonight felt special. The air hummed with laughter, the scent of pumpkin pie wafting through the room, but none of them knew that everything was about to change. Just as Carol served a plate of steaming mashed potatoes, the door swung open. In walked a stranger, all grace and confidence in an elegant suit that glimmered under the diner's soft lights. Kenji, a millionaire from Japan, had come to canvass America for charities, but the diner felt like a world away from his life of luxury. The regulars looked up with curiosity, wearing plaid and denim, their inviting smiles masking uncertainty. His presence shifted the atmosphere. Carol felt the weight of his gaze, recognizing that he was as much an outsider here as she sometimes felt in her own life. She welcomed him with a nod and a warm plate in hand, offering him the choice of turkey or meatloaf. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice steady but her heart racing. As the evening wore on, laughter blossomed into meaningful conversations around their booths. Carol shared her journey raising 2 kids while running a diner in an economic slump, battling the ghosts of a husband who had lost himself to war. There was a palpable shift as she openly told them stories of resilience, the aftermath of PTSD clutching the heart of her family. Her words, imbued with pain and love, hung in the air, drawing all eyes toward her, including Kenji's. Kenji spoke then, his voice soothing yet powerful, cutting through doubts like a candle in the dark. He told them of his humble beginnings, arriving in America with only a suitcase filled with dreams. Those dreams expanded as he worked tirelessly to build bridges of understanding and compassion through his wealth. He had experienced the struggle arriving as an immigrant who shared not just tale of triumph, but also profound empathy. Then, like electrical sparks igniting dry grass, they found common ground. Carol's eyes lit up when Kenji revealed his passion for philanthropy, helping veterans and low-income families. They were whispers from their souls that matched her own struggles. The unknown stretched before them like an open road, filled with the promise of collaboration. Before they could spell it out, a warmth blossomed among the diners, bubbling with ideas. Faces shifted toward relief and excited expressions replaced the usual tired ones. Carol felt a jolt of hope surge within her as they discussed a community project that could rejuvenate their town. Just as they began mapping out aspirations, doubt flickered in the air. Could Kenji ever truly understand her struggles, or would their differing worlds create an insurmountable barrier? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. Tension floated like steam from the coffee pot as conversations echoed around them, unearthing issues larger than they had ever imagined. They were both learning, the barriers crumbled slowly but steadily. Just as whispers of excitement began spiraling through the diner, Kenji stood up, heart pounding with every eye upon him. "I have something to propose," he started, a proposal echoing through their souls, igniting possibility but also fear of misunderstanding. Would the community rally around their collaboration, or would the very fabric of their dreams tear apart at the seams? Carol's heart raced, her future and perhaps the future of the diner hung in the balance, waiting for the sound of fate's next move. Would they forge a path forward, hand in hand, united in purpose? The diner held its breath, an entire town teetering on the brink of transformation, as hope for a brighter tomorrow shimmered in the air. Fate. The room fell silent, the clinking of forks on plates halted as everyone turned their full attention to Kenji. His confident smile began to falter, and Carol felt a sudden rush of empathy for the man standing at the center of their community. He was not just a millionaire, he was a dreamer like them, standing on the edge of a new journey. "I want to help you," he said, words tumbling out faster than he could catch them. "I believe together we can create something amazing here." The murmurs around the diner started low but grew in fervor. People shared glances, questioning whether this was just another fleeting idea or something that could lead to real change. Jack, a local farmer with calloused hands and a heart of gold, broke the silence with a simple, "What do you have in mind?" Kenji cleared his throat, the determination steadying his voice. "I want to provide funds to refurbish this diner. Make it a community hub, a place where families can gather, where support extends beyond meals." His eyes sparkled with passion, the warmth of hope weaving through the air. "And I want to create a scholarship program for the children in this town, so they can follow their dreams." The faces around the room transformed from skepticism to intrigue, even awe. Carol felt a swell of emotion. Was it possible? Could someone from a world so different truly care and connect in this way? She wanted to believe, and the murmurs of encouragement bubbling in her community nudged her toward hope. But what's the catch? Helen, a single mother sitting at the back, voiced what everyone was thinking. "Why would you invest in us? What do you gain from it?" Kenji paused, allowing the weight of that question to hang over them. "I've seen communities fall apart because of lack of support. I've felt the isolation and desperation. I want to help make sure that doesn't happen here. It has nothing to do with profit for me, this is about healing, giving back. We are more alike than we think." Carol studied him, searching for any trace of insincerity. Instead, she saw determination and kindness etched in his features. Could she trust him? The vision of a better diner, a revived community, flickered brightly in her heart, yet doubt loomed just as strong. "Let's think about it," she said, her voice shaky but resolute. "Every change comes with risks. We need more than just words. We need a plan." The discussions heated up, voices mingling with excitement and cautious concern. Ideas flowed like the coffee that Carol continuously poured, promises of a future glittering. Kenji listened intently, asking questions, drawing maps on napkins, sketching out ideas, collaborating as if they were already a team. But the doubt remained, a shadow creeping into the warmth of the moment. Would they accept this offer? Would they dare to take a leap of faith into this unknown future? There was a thrill of hope wrapped in uncertainty, the feeling tightening in Carol's chest. Suddenly, the door swung open again, drawing everyone's gaze. A small girl barefoot with tangled hair, dirt on her cheeks stood in the entrance, the chill of the night ghosting around her. Carol squinted, her heart racing again, sensing something vital hovering in the air. "Mom!" The girl shouted, her voice breaking through the moment, a sharp tether to reality. "There's trouble at the farm." A collective gasp filled the diner, eyes darting. Kenji stepped forward, concern washing over his features. As fear crept back in, Carol's heart sank. What fresh challenge was unfolding now? Could they still dream of change in the face of crisis? Everything seemed to hang in precarious balance as hope and despair collided. Would they still unite to tackle the troubles ahead? Or would this mark the end of their budding plans? As the shadows grew longer in the diner, one question loomed large: what awaited them beyond the gathering storm? The urgency in the little girl's voice still echoed in the air as its weight settled on the diner like a heavy fog. Carol's instincts kicked in despite her racing heart. She could see the fear etched on the faces around her. Kenji's brows knitted together in concern. "What kind of trouble?" he asked, his voice low and steady, like a calm in the storm. The girl's eyes widened. "There are men at the farm, they're scaring everyone. They say we owe money." Her breath quickened, and Carol knelt to meet her gaze. "Take a deep breath, sweetie. We'll take care of it," she assured, though her own heart was pounding in her chest. Jack, the farmer who'd spoken up earlier, stood up, fists clenched. "They're not getting away with this. We have to protect the farm." It's part of us. The electricity in the room snapped back to life as everyone began to rally behind Jack's words, fueled by anger and fear. The tantalizing prospect of a new future was abruptly overshadowed by the cold reality of their current struggles. "Kenji," Carol said, her voice almost lost in the rising tide of concern, "can you help us? We might need funds for legal aid, maybe even guards." Kenji's expression softened with understanding. "Absolutely, whatever you need. But we have to get to the farm first. We can't let fear dictate our next moves." Without a second thought, Kenji's decisiveness sparked courage in everyone. They all started to move as one. Grabbing jackets and car keys, the diner transformed into a bustling hub of action, fueled by an urgency that had just taken root. Carol felt a flickering of hope even amidst chaos, as she locked eyes with Kenji. "Let us show these men who we are," he said, a fierce fire igniting in his eyes. The group spilled out of the diner, a mix of old and young, weary farmers, and hopeful dreamers. They hurried to their cars, Kenji in a sleek vehicle that seemed so out of place compared to the familiar trucks and rusted sedans surrounding it. As they drove toward the farm, Carol's mind whirled. With each passing moment, she felt the tightness in her chest ease just a bit. She saw how Kenji interacted with the locals, listening, offering reassurance. There was strength in his authenticity, and she felt the community beginning to rise. Arriving at the farm, the atmosphere thickened with tension. The farmhouse stood as a silent witness to the conflict playing out just steps away. A group of rough-looking men loitered near the entrance, their presence heavy. Carol's heart sank again, but it was quickly replaced by a fierce determination. "Stay close," she instructed the locals, feeling the solidarity around her. "We do this together." Kenji stepped forward, his posture confident yet measured, like he was preparing for a negotiation rather than a fight. "Can we speak to you?" he called out, voice steady. The men turned slowly, sneering, but there was uncertainty in their eyes. The scene felt electrifying. Heartbeats quickened, voices murmured, and yet amidst the fear, Carol could see the glint of unity growing. But in that moment of confrontation, something shifted in the atmosphere. The tension curled around them, thick and tangible, and Carol realized that this was at the moment when their resolve would either shatter or coalesce. As Kenji engaged in a heated discussion, a familiar voice chimed from the group. It was Helen, trembling but speaking out, capturing everyone's attention. "What you're doing is wrong. You'll regret it when this community stands together." The words hung heavy in the air, the truth resonating. It felt like a turning point, yet Carol also sensed peril lurking just beyond the horizon. Would they stand united, or would they falter? As Kenji defended their right to protect what was theirs, tension crackled around them. The moment hinged precariously on a knife's edge. Would this confrontation ignite a new spark of change, or was it just the beginning of something darker? A storm of emotions brewed, laying bare the fragility of hope in the face of adversity. The next breath felt like a pause before a storm, leaving everyone wondering what was about to unfold. The air hung heavy with anticipation, the kind of stillness that promised change. Carol's eyes locked onto the rough-looking men, standing like sentinels, hardened by a history she couldn't fathom. Kenji exuded an aura of calm, his voice steady, but Carol saw the tension in his fingers, clenched at his sides. "We're not backing down," he said, voice ringing clear through the growing murmurs of fear and uncertainty. The men exchanged glances, their sneers faltering just for a moment. That tiny crack was enough to ignite a flicker of hope in her chest. "Look, we know the struggles we're facing," Kenji continued, "but what you're threatening, taking away the farm, it's tearing apart not just land but lives. It's our home." One of the men, a bull of a figure with tattoos crawling up his arms, stepped forward. "You think words will save you? Money is all that matters here." He spat the words like venom. "Then let us talk money," Kenji shot back. "What do you want?" "We're not here to fight, we want to find a solution." The tension deepened, thrumming like an electric wire. Nearby, Helen straightened herself, her face determined. You can't bully us into silence. We won't let fear win. Her words hung in the air, a powerful call to arms that made the others stir with energy. Carol felt adrenaline pulse through her veins. We stand together, she echoed, stepping closer to Helen, raising her chin to meet the men's gazes. For this land. For each other. You may think you can break us, but we are stronger together. Kenji flashed a quick nod of approval. Those words hung between them, settling like a fabric woven with fear and defiance. The men's expressions began to shift, there was confusion mixed with underlying rage. Then, unexpectedly, laughter erupted from one of the men. It was coarse, mocking. You think a bunch of farmers and dreamers can stand against us? The cruel laughter was met with gritted teeth from the gathered locals. The hum of anger surged, and Carol felt the heat of it wash over her. Could they really confront this fearsome group? I believe we can, Kenji said, his tone unwavering. Look around. We're not alone. We have each other. That was when the girl who first spoke up clawed forward, her small frame trembling. They're wrong. Our hearts are bigger than their greed. Silence blanketed the group, the intensity drawing everyone into that fragile moment. Helen reached out, taking the girl's hand. Exactly. We stand for what matters. Carol watched as that simple act of connection transformed their energy. The humanity they shared was spilling over, igniting courage like a wildfire. The tattooed man eyed the girl, confusion flashing across his face. You think you can sway any of us with a child's tears? But Kenji was relentless, honing in on that uncertainty. Honestly, it's more than just tears. It's commitment. We want a conversation, not a fight, and I can help you understand that this community isn't what you think. We can prove it. As Kenji spoke, Carol felt a shift in the crowd around her. Even Jack was nodding, emboldened by the idea of standing united. What would happen next depended not just on words, but on the faith that they could carve out a path forward. Just then, a rumble of engines broke through the stalemate. More cars rolled into sight, dust rising as they approached the farm's entryway. Carol's breath hitched as she recognized familiar faces, neighbors, friends, and families stirred by the news, rallying to support. Are they here to join us or to cause more trouble? A voice whispered, filled with fear. A thin sliver of hope etched across Kenji's face. I think they're here to stand with us. And as those figures emerged, the weight of the moment pulsed with potential. Would the tide indeed turn in their favor, or was this just the calm before a greater storm? As all eyes turned toward the newcomers, Carol felt a swell of emotion rise. They were not just fighting for the farm, they were fighting for a shared future, one built on resilience and unity. But as the first car door swung open, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was far from over. What secrets lay hidden in the hearts of their new arrivals? Would they reinforce their resolve or threaten to fracture everything they fought to build? The stakes rose higher, and the air thickened around her. In this moment that dangled precariously between hope and despair, one question loomed larger than any: were they truly ready for the battle that was brewing? The tension took on a new shape as the doors flung open, and a chorus of familiar voices cascaded into the stillness. Old friends, neighbors, and even a few distant relatives spilled out of their vehicles, shaking off the dust as they faced the rising tide of confrontation. Carol's heart raced as she recognized faces that had stood alongside her through years of shared laughter, toil, and tears. Sarah. Pete. What are you doing here? She called, her voice bubbling with relief and disbelief, cutting through the weight of the moment. Sarah, with her tousled hair and always vibrant smile, waved back fiercely. We heard. We weren't going to let you fight this battle alone. Behind Sarah, Pete nodded, his eyes darting between the tattooed men and the community gathered. You think we're gonna let some thugs take what's ours? Not a chance. The newfound strength in their numbers sent a current of energy through the crowd, swelling with every step the neighbors took toward the fray. Carol felt buoyed, her fears wrung out like a soaked rag, leaving behind only determination. The shouts of encouragement and promises of loyalty reverberated off the peeling walls of the barn, filling the air with a renewed sense of purpose. Kenji was quick to seize the moment. Now we have a chance to show them who we are. His voice rang out, solidifying their united front. Let us show them that love for our home is stronger than any greed. Cries of agreement rose around them, a symphony of defiance that cut through the chilling laughter that had previously filled the air. Eyes once laden with uncertainty now shimmered with resolve, the collective spirit soaring. The tattooed man stepped back slightly, shifting his weight as if surprised by the tide of people emerging willingly to fight. You think numbers mean anything? He scoffed, but there was a crack growing in his bravado, a suspicion mingling with unease. Yeah, they do. Shouted Jack from the back, his booming confidence pushing through the ranks. You underestimate all of us. In that moment, Carol caught sight of the girl who had spoken up earlier, the one with the quivering frame. She was now standing taller, gripping Helen's hand like it was a shield. That simple connection had blossomed into courage, an unshakable bond that bolstered the resolve of everyone present, but just as the tide seemed to solidify, a fierce voice broke through the crowd. Can we just pause for a second? It was Mr. Jenkins, their landlord, his gaze unyielding. What exactly are we doing? Are we ready for the consequences? His question hung heavy as a leaden weight, an anchor threatening to sink the buoyant hope rising around them. Could they be prepared for retaliation? Could they truly protect what was theirs? Carol felt a prickle of doubt, and she glanced at Kenji. His steady gaze met hers, and she saw the spark of determination in his eyes. We stand together, he reminded softly, a mantra woven in their hearts. Together, Carol whispered, echoing his steady resolve, an anchor amidst gathering storms. As if sensing a shift, the tattooed man stepped closer, a predatory gleam in his eye. You want a fight? You've got one. But when this falls apart, remember, it's on you. The air crackled again with tension, a mixture of fear laced with adrenaline. Carol's pulse raced as the words sank in. The fight was no longer theoretical. It was right there, just beyond the horizon. The stakes had never been higher, fear slinking through her gut. As the men readied themselves, bodies tensed for either combat or conversation, the gathered group stood firm, 13 faces determined to alter their fate. With each heartbeat, they drew closer to a defining moment, a confrontation straddling the line between hope and desperation. Ready? Helen called, her eyes igniting the fire in everyone around her, but as they prepared for whatever would come next, a piercing scream from the far end of the farm shattered the moment. Everyone turned, hearts racing, senses heightened. What had happened? Carol could feel the cold grip of dread wrap around her throat. Was the battle already upon them? What new reality lay hidden beyond this chilling scream? The crowd erupted into chaos, the piercing scream echoing through the air like a warning bell. It cut through Carol's gut, a raw, instinctual fear clawing at her insides. People's heads snapped toward the source, some dashed toward the sound, while others instinctively huddled closer together. Carol's heart thudded against her ribs, an erratic drumbeat of uncertainty. Stay together. Kenji shouted, his voice rising above the pandemonium. He reached out and pulled Carol closer to him, his grip steadying her as they turned to see where the shout had originated. From the far side of the barn, a small figure stumbled into view. It was Amelia, her face pale, her small hands trembling. Fear was plastered across her features. Help! Something happened to Mr. Jenkins. She gasped, breathless and wide-eyed. Carol felt her stomach drop. What do you mean, Amelia? What happened? Panic ricocheted through her emotions. The confrontation with the tattooed men was fading into the background, overshadowed by this new fear. He fell. Amelia exclaimed, her voice shaking. He was talking, and then he just collapsed. A deep silence settled over the group like a blanket, the weight of her words sinking in. The tattooed men exchanged glances, their bravado visibly shaken as confusion replaced their earlier aggression. Carol's heart raced as she fought against the worry pooling in her chest. "Is he okay?" Someone called from the crowd, concern replacing defiance. Carol felt the shift. Fear was spreading faster than any fight could. Helen stepped forward, her voice firm but quiet. "Let us go check on him. We can't leave him like this." She moved without hesitation, her maternal instinct kicking in. One by one, the others began to follow. Carol and Kenji exchanged glances, then moved as a unit, joining everyone as they rushed to where Mr. Jenkins lay crumpled near the barn entrance. When they reached him, the scene unfolded with a kind of brutal clarity. Mr. Jenkins was pale, his mouth moving silently, eyes closed. Carol knelt beside him, heart racing as she checked for a pulse. It was faint but steady. Relief surged through her. He was still alive. "Call 911. She commanded, meeting Kenji's gaze. "Someone needs to get help now." As Kenji sprinted toward the farmhouse to grab a phone, the crowd instinctively made space around Jenkins. Amelia knelt beside Carol, worry written all over her young face. "What's wrong with him?" she whispered, her voice thick with anxiety. "I don't know, sweetie," Carol replied, forcing a calmness she didn't feel. "But we're going to help him." The air around them felt thick and heavy, every heartbeat loud, every breath charged with tension. The reality of their earlier bravado about defending their home was slowly dissipating, replaced by an urgent need for survival and assistance, seconds stretched into an eternity. "He needs to stay still," someone murmured, shifting nervously, and just like that, the tattooed men hesitated. The leader, scowling, shot a look at his companions. Suddenly, the threat hanging over them seemed distant, overshadowed now by something far more pressing. That a siren wailed in the distance, cutting through the air like a sign of hope. Moments later, the lights of an ambulance blinked through the dimming twilight. But even as the sirens drew closer, an unsettling thought crept into Carol's mind. If they're here to help, will that be enough to deter the conflict brewing just outside? As the paramedics rushed to Mr. Jenkins' side, Carol couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was at play, something that would change the dynamics of their community forever. Just then, an odd stillness settled over the scene. A loud crash echoed from behind the barn, jolting her attention. Everyone turned again, breaths held in anticipation. "What now?" someone whispered, dread pooling in the pit of Carol's stomach. And as the surface flickered, revealing shadows pushing through the dusk, Carol could only wonder, was the danger truly over, or was it only just beginning? A tense silence fell over the crowd as the last echoes of the crash faded. Carol felt every pulse in her body, the quickening heartbeat, the shallow breaths. The shadows moved closer, and her heart raced with a mix of fear and curiosity. "What was that?" Kenji asked, his voice steady but laced with urgency as he returned from the farmhouse, phone in hand. The sirens were closer now, but the new sound had pulled everyone's focus. "I don't know," Carol replied, feeling her palms sweat. It came from behind the barn. The tattooed men, who had slipped into a more passive stance, exchanged anxious glances. The uncertainty that now hung in the air was palpable. This was no longer about bravado or threats, something deeper lurked in the shadows. Suddenly, a figure emerged, first just the outline, then the details sharpened under the glowing lights of the ambulance. It was a small, scruffy dog, fur muddy and matted. It limped forward, halting as it spotted the crowd. "Is that?" Carol began, her heart softening at the sight. "Is that Scrappy?" The little dog, Mr. Jenkins' lifelong companion, whined softly, inching closer. Carol felt tears prick at her eyes. Scrappy had always been a bundle of energy, but now he looked lost and frightened. "What's wrong with him?" Amelia cried, eyes wide with worry. "Is he hurt too?" Before Carol could respond, a crack of laughter erupted from the tattooed men's leader. What a pathetic sight, he sneered, crossing his arms. Carol shot him a glare, wishing she could wipe the smug look off his face. Kenji stepped forward, squatting down to the dog's level, his gentle demeanor shining through the tension. "Hey there, buddy," he whispered. "You're safe now." As Kenji reached out a cautious hand, Scrappy approached, his little tail wagging just slightly. The crowd collectively held a breath, waiting for the moment of connection. And then, to everyone's surprise, Scrappy darted to Kenji, collapsing into him as if the weight of the world had finally been lifted from his tiny body. A wave of collective relief washed over the bystanders. Carol felt a smile break through her fear. It was a small victory amidst the chaos, a reminder that sometimes love finds a way even in the darkest moments. But the sense of calm was fleeting. The leader of the tattooed men cleared his throat, reclaiming the moment. "Guess the dog's alright. But maybe it's time to settle this, huh? We can't just ignore this little dog show while men like us stand around." Carol's smile faltered. "What do you want?" Her heart was pounding again. "This isn't about you anymore. Mr. Jenkins needs help. We can't just drag this fight on." "Maybe, but it's more than that now, sweetheart," he replied, a menacing grin spreading across his face. "There are lines that have been crossed." The paramedics were now at Mr. Jenkins' side, working quickly, but their voices were drowned out in the rising tension. Carol's thoughts raced. She needed to protect her community, her friends, the people who'd been through so much together. "Enough," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos, surprising even herself. "Everything hinged on this moment. If you want to fight, then fight. But we're not going to let you hurt anyone else here." A challenge hung in the air, heavy with the weight of what had been sacrificed and stolen. As the crowd shifted uncomfortably behind her, Carol felt a surge of courage, a strange new strength rising within her. "You think you can scare us?" she added, glancing at Kenji, who stood tall beside her, unwavering. "You're wrong." The tattooed leader laughed, but his smirk didn't reach his eyes. "You think you can play hero, huh? Just wait and see what happens next." But even as he spoke, a new sound reached their ears, the sirens blaring louder now, the ambulance fully illuminated, bringing both light and urgency. And amidst the swell of anxiety and anger, another crash rang out from the edges of the barn. As they all turned to face that direction again, Carol's heart sank. The shadows were shifting again, this time revealing not just the unknown but a much larger threat. The feeling of dread settled back in her stomach, quickly overtaking the small flicker of hope. Whatever was behind the barn could change everything again, and deep down, she feared that this was just the beginning of their nightmare. And as the crowd leaned forward, eyes wide, Carol couldn't shake the question that took root in her mind: what terrible secret lay beyond the shadows waiting to reveal itself? The collective gasp of the crowd echoed through the night, a chorus of disbelief and confusion. Carol squinted, trying to pierce the thick veil of darkness that shrouded the barn's edge. The crash had stirred something primal, something that threatened to crawl right out of the depths of her fears. "Stay back!" the leader of the tattooed men barked. His warning sliced through the tension like a knife, and for a moment, everyone froze. The shadows danced ominously, and Carol felt her breath catch in her throat. Was it more than just a dog? What lurked in the darkness? A distant growl sounded, low and rumbling, sending a shiver down her spine. Scrappy whimpered, edging closer to Kenji, seeking comfort in the warmth of his leg. Kenji's hand rested lightly on the pup's back, reassuring both the dog and Carol. "We need to get everyone to safety," Carol said, glancing nervously at the crowd. "If there's something back there, we can't risk anyone getting hurt." "Are you kidding?" the leader scoffed, stepping closer, his bulk casting an intimidating shadow over her. "You're really going to leave like scared little mice? Fight or flight, sweetheart. No in between." Carol took a deep breath, pushing aside her own self-doubt. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to protect those who can't protect themselves. Her voice held firm as she locked eyes with him, refusing to back down. Then, the shadows shifted again more violently, and the growl turned into a series of snarls that sounded all too close. It was a warning. Instinctively, Carol backed away, feeling the heat of Kenji's presence beside her, grounding her even as chaos threatened to unravel the moment. "Everyone, let us move," Kenji called out, projecting a calm that she found infectious. One by one, the people began to back away slowly, keeping their eyes fixed on the darker edge of the barn. Carol felt the adrenaline surge. This was more than just a test of courage. As they retreated, the shadows grew more defined. A larger figure emerged, silhouetted against the beams of the ambulance lights now flooding the area. It stepped into view, revealing itself as a massive, battered, yet undeniably regal-looking dog. Its fur was thick and matted, scars tracing its powerful frame, but there was something inherently compassionate in its gaze. Shadows flicked across the crowd as murmurs erupted. "What is that?" someone gasped. "Is it a wolf?" "No, it's just a dog." Carol shook her head, confusion mingling with awe. "But look at it, something must be happened to it." The menace in the tattooed leader's eyes flickered with uncertainty as the creature advanced slowly, favoring one leg. Carol felt a wave of empathy crash over her as she recognized that this stray shared a fight similar to Scrappy's, displaced, frightened, yet unwilling to let go of the spirit to survive. "This isn't an enemy," Carol emphasized, focusing on the haggard creature. "It needs help, same as we do." "We can't," the leader interrupted her, his facade cracking into visible panic. "Get it out of here. It's dangerous." But Carol could see something different. She saw a kindred spirit in the dog's weary eyes. It was like looking into a mirror of resilience. "Wait. We can't hurt it," she urged, stepping forward, feeling compelled to protect the vulnerable, even from her own fears. "We can help. It's been through enough." The moment hung, charged with uncertainty and tension. The scared crowd remained fixated, struggling to process the evolving scene. Just then, with a sudden burst of energy, the dog leaped a few steps towards her, time stilled. In that instant, Carol knew the risk she was taking. As she reached a hand out, she hoped against hope that the creature would respond to her kindness, echoing the truth she long believed, that even in the face of fear, compassion can prevail. And just as their paths crossed, another crash echoed from the barn's depths, far more thunderous than before. Carol turned, eyes wide with horror, unable to shake the notion that their night was about to take another dark turn. What emerged from beyond the shadows was the real question, and a knot of dread twisted in her stomach as she prepared for whatever lay ahead. The tension in the air crackled like electricity. Carol's heart raced as she turned back toward the barn, dread twisting her stomach tighter. She wanted to scream, to rally everyone away from the looming unknown, but the sheer weight of anticipation froze her voice. Kenji squeezed her shoulder, grounding her once more. "What do you think it is?" he asked, his voice steady despite the chaos. "I don't know," she whispered, eyes locked on the barn, "but whatever it is, we're not alone in this." The crowd shivered from more than just the chill of night. There was a collective holding of breath, a conviction that something, or someone, would come. But what would it be? The air felt thick with fear and curiosity. The growl morphed into a sharp bark that echoed through the night like a battle cry, followed by a loud crash that sent splinters of wood flying from within the barn. Carol's pulse quickened as she glanced back at the wounded dog, who now stood stock still, ears alert, restoring a sense of dignity despite its injuries. "We have to keep protecting everyone," she declared, the words spilling out now with urgency. "We can't let fear dictate our actions. Not anymore." Suddenly, the barn doors creaked open wider, revealing a darker form inside. Carol squinted, peering into the depths where shadows lurked. There was something moving, something larger than the first creature, and this time it wasn't cautious. It charged forward, a monstrous silhouette breaking free from the darkness. A massive wolf, sleek and powerful, surged into the moonlight, its teeth bared as it lunged toward the crowd. Gasps echoed around her, panic rippling through the onlookers like a wave. The tattooed leader shouted something, his face a mask of horror, but Carol only heard the thundering of her own heart. "Get back! Everyone back!" Kenji shouted, pulling Scrappy into his arms. Carol took a step forward, adrenaline driving her feet. Could they get away? Would it be worth the risk to face the danger? The wounded dog had managed to get back onto the ground, its eyes fixed on the wolf. Carol's heart leaped into her throat as she understood. This wasn't just a random attack, it was a display of territory, an assertion of the strongest will. The lone wolf had no notion of surrender. "Wait!" Carol cried out, stepping in front of Kenji and the onlookers, but her voice barely cut through the fear swarming everyone. "The injured dog, if we can help it, maybe we can show the wolf that we mean no harm. The last thing we need is to face a pack." Kenji began, but she could see doubt flash across his face. "Just trust me," she insisted, firm and unwavering. "I know it sounds crazy, but I think they need each other." A moment hung suspended in time. The wolf stood poised to attack. The crowd held its breath. The injured dog, sensing its counterpart, lowered its head and whined softly. Shock swept through the group, transforming fear into curiosity. Was this savagery or a plea for understanding? Before she could second-guess herself, Carol stepped forward again, heart racing, hand extended toward the battered creature who seemed to identify with her resolve. As the wolf hesitated, vision fixed on its opponent, light flickered in the dog's eyes, a spark of hope mingling with the night's darkness. Carol could feel the energy shift as all eyes remained glued to the two creatures like a live painting frozen in a moment of potential confrontation, and then the wolf's soft growl subsided momentarily, as if considering her presence, understanding the shared struggle that bonded them all, but just then, a new noise broke the fragile peace, a low rumble in the distance, echoing above the confusion. A sound approaching, growing louder and closer, and the crowd turned as one to witness the next twist of fate. What had shifted beneath their feet this time? Was it another predator, or perhaps a force of their understanding? The darkness began to slip away from them, but the path ahead remained uncertain, heavy with unanswered questions and looming transformation. The rumble grew louder, reverberating against the stillness, as headlights pierced the darkness, illuminating the chaos sprawled before everyone. A convoy of vehicles emerged, shaking off the dust and drawing up in a sweeping arc at the edge of the clearing. Carol squinted into the blinding light, her heart hammering as neighbors, friends, and even those from distant farms began to spill out, some rushing toward the barn, others standing nearby with uncertain expressions. "Thank God you're here!" shouted Helen, the first to break the tension, rallying everyone around her with a fierce energy. "We're all together now." Suddenly, the moon shone brightly, casting its silver glow over the scene, illuminating not only the people but the injured dog and the fierce wolf. The two animals remained locked in their moment of tension, one wary but resolute, and the other appearing just as uncertain. "Stay together," Kenji directed firmly, pulling Carol closer, his eyes sparking with determination. Carol felt that familiar warmth wash over her. They were no longer just individuals caught in a nightmare, they were a community, a tapestry woven together by shared struggles and hopes. The wolf, seeing the crowd's increased numbers, shifted slightly, glancing between its potential prey and the lone injured dog remaining steadfast in its vulnerability. The atmosphere buzzed with tension, but beneath it was a tide of solidarity, one that Carol believed could tip the scales in their favor. "Maybe they just need to understand why we're here," Carol whispered, stepping forward again, her heart racing but her resolve stronger than ever. "We can show them that we're not a threat." With each breath, she felt that strange tug, the connection between all beings, rooted in empathy and understanding. The crowd began murmuring in agreement, their voices rising together, soft yet strong, a chorus of compassion suffusing the atmosphere. The wolf growled slightly, a low rumble, but Carol noticed its posture soften as it tracked her gaze. She reached out her hand, trying to connect her heart to the world around her. "We're not here to fight," she called out. "We just want to protect one of our own. Just as we protect each other." The two dogs exchanged glances, one a terrified soul seeking refuge, the other a proud guardian wary of intrusion. Just as Carol began to doubt her approach, the wounded dog took a hesitant step forward, moving from her side and braving the space between the two. A flicker of understanding ignited in the wolf's eyes, hesitant but alive. Around her, the crowd held its breath in anticipation. Even the tattooed leader had fallen silent, entranced by the unfolding moment. As if communing with the universe, she whispered, "Together, we rise." Time seemed suspended. The injured dog's soft whimpers bridged the gap between them, echoing Carol's words, creating a bond that belied their fierce appearances. The wolf bowed its head, a gesture of recognition and respect. Carol could feel the shift, the very air around them began to lighten. In response, the murmurs from the crowd turned into a steady echo of encouragement. "You can do it. Show them love. We are united." Slowly, the wolf's stance softened further, its eyes glinting with the depth of emotion Carol hoped for. In an aching moment that felt like magic, the wolf took a tentative step closer, assessing the wounded dog as though to receive the quiet plea. And just like that, the tension dissolved like fog under the morning sun. The wolf's body language shifted, it lowered itself slightly, less threatening and more ceremonial, perhaps signaling their desire to coexist. Cheers erupted from the crowd, but Carol held her breath, aware that a new understanding hinged on the slightest shift. "Together," Kenji echoed, touching her shoulder reassuringly. His strength surged through her, fueling that undeniable current of hope. Finally, the wolf relaxed, sitting back on its haunches, letting the other dog approach. A moment passed, an ancient connection blossomed in this beautiful display of compassion. Amelia stepped forward, wide-eyed. "See? They're friends now." The crowd erupted in cheers, laughter intermingling with disbelief and relief. There was pride sparking in everyone's hearts, speaking to the power of community, courage, and compassion that had transformed their fear into unity. The tattooed leader looked deflated, defiance ebbing away like the tide. What the hell just happened? But no one answered. As Mr. Jenkins was whisked away by the paramedics, there was a newfound lightness among them. Each face illuminated with potential, a strength forged in solidarity. They had fought together not only for their home but for understanding itself, tearing down the walls around fear and embracing the bonds that made them who they were. And as Carol turned to Kenji, a realization sparked within her heart. This was just the beginning of their journey, the dawn of a new chapter, one anointed by compassion that would ripple through their community like a warm summer breeze. Together, they stood, hand in hand, neighbors, dreamers, and fighters, ready to embrace not only the challenges ahead but also the incredible transformation that awaited. "Are you in?" Carol asked, a radiant smile breaking through her earlier anxiety. "Always," Kenji replied, his eyes shining with promise, and as they turned back to face the future, the roar of hope surged through them all, ready for whatever lay ahead. That if you felt the power of this story and want to be part of more incredible journeys like this, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that like button to feed the algorithm that brings these stories to life. Leave a comment with your thoughts and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who could use a little inspiration. Together, we'll continue to grow this community, igniting change through stories. Thank you for being here.